Hi, I'm Derek Holota.
And I'm Harry Burns.
And this is Building in Common, stories from the tech revolution and the people making it happen.
Everyone can see the huge changes taking place across all industries, driven by AI adoption. In each episode, we'll look at a legacy industry and discuss how AI is reshaping it and hear from the people driving the change.
So Harry, you and I come from the PR and the marketing worlds, and today that is what we're diving into. In particular, this idea of the end of the mega retainer, which is something that you are going to walk us through. But first, let's take a look at some of the sort of big AI stories that caught our eyes this week.
Absolutely. So one of the many concerning stories I saw this week, but perhaps the one that stood out most for me, was an opinion piece in the New York Times by a woman called Zoe Hitzig. Zoe was a researcher at OpenAI until she resigned this week, following the news that OpenAI are going to start to show adverts to users of ChatGPT. Zoe had previously worked at Facebook, and she left Facebook because she had concerns about how advertising data was being used to target users. And so I think she feels that this is the first step, perhaps in a journey for OpenAI to follow a similar route to Facebook and to start to use some of the incredibly intimate information that we are feeding these large language models about ourselves to perhaps in the future target advertising accordingly. OpenAI, just to be clear, have said that they have no intention of doing this, that they're going to show adverts without targeting people based on the information that we are providing. However, often, best hopes and best aspirations can change as business models evolve and as financial demands require more and more revenue generation to keep the wheel spinning at the company. So that's certainly something that that is of a bit of a concern for all of us users of large language models.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting angle and a concerning one if you're OpenAI being compared to Facebook. Facebook's actions sort of speak for themselves on this. I think the jury, to be fair to OpenAI, I think should still be out. They, while they started as sort of the not-for-profit AI research company, they are now, making it no secret that they are pursuing hypergrowth. So I'm not at all surprised that they're going after the advertising route. We actually wrote about this on Substack this week. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting piece. It's a really important article to keep in mind. But also, I'll give OpenAI the benefit of the doubt for now.
I wonder if it's going to make people second guess what type of information they are feeding it. I mean, obviously it's early stages, but I think perhaps I might start to be a bit more cautious about what type of conversations that I'm having with with my LLM. So at some point, that could be used to target adverts at me.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, a roundtable of senior marketing people, and we were talking about sort of getting the latest on AI. And one of the topics that was brought up was ChatGPT Health, which I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically they're rolling out a health tech app. And the topic of conversation around the table was, would you be comfortable giving ChatGPT your health information? And it was pretty much split 50-50 of people who said, no, there's no way I would do that. And then the other half basically saying, well, I mean, all my other information is out there in the world. I'm not terribly concerned about, or I'm sort of given up control of it, so.
But it's wild considering that it's only been around for 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Sort of 50% of people are already happy to give up, that incredibly personal, important information.
Yeah, I guess though, if you wear an Apple Watch, you're doing that, right? It's measuring all of your health stuff and putting it into Apple servers. But anyway, interesting.
Indeed. What were your eyes, Derek?
An article by Mark Ritson, who wrote about the big stay. So if you're not familiar with Mark Ritson, he's sort of one of the big thought leaders in the marketing industry up there with sort of Rory Sutherland. And he talked about a sort of undercurrent of fear within the marketing labor pool right now, where you've got a lot of marketing folks, especially more senior level marketing folks, who are staying put in jobs that they're not necessarily happy in, or they don't necessarily see a lot of growth in front of them, because they're simply not confident in their prospects if they take the leap and go somewhere else. And I think this is especially relevant in the UK market, where if you've been with a company for a few years, let's say, even if it's a lateral move, that first 2 years you've given up some employment rights along the way. And so there's sort of not a lot of movement in the market right now. And the article, I think, was a little bit alarmist, but definitely holds true with conversations that I've had with people in the industry about how they're thinking about the careers going forwards. In-house teams are getting smaller, and marketing budgets are adjusting to this new sort of reality where AI can do a lot of the promotion side of marketing.
Interesting. And we'll share all of the links to all of the things that we're referencing in the show notes, so people can read the stories or see the posts themselves.
Yes, unless it's something that was printed in a physical newspaper, which is a photo that you sent me this week of an article that caught your eye. So there will be no show notes for that. But
we can share the picture. We can share the picture of the real life paper.
Tell us what you saw.
So I, as you said, I buy a physical newspaper still because I'm an old school sort of guy. And on the front page of the Financial Times was a pretty funny story about KPMG, one of the big four accountancy firms, demanding cost savings from the accounting firm that they use to audit themselves. So the Grant Thornton provide KPMG with auditing services. KPMG have asked for a reduction in the fees that they're being charged because they know that a lot of this auditing work can be done, can be automated and can be done by AI now. I think KPMG were charged 14% less last year than they were in the previous years for the auditing services that they were buying, which goes to show that that they know full well how much this work can be done by AI, and they are already they are asking themselves for cost savings. So it's only a matter of time before their clients start to catch on and start demanding that all of these large retainers are reduced, so that the services that would normally be delivered by junior staff will be delivered by AI models instead, which I thought was was quite interesting, quite funny, and quite telling about the way that all these sort of consulting industries are going.
Yeah, I think like the substance of that story holds true. Of course, the value of the billable hour has gone down as a result of AI. But like, what an own goal for KPMG. They may as well have put up a sign that says everything's on sale. Like, we're, if you're one of our clients, come and tell us that you want to pay less because we're doing the same thing.
Not a good day for the KPMG comms team.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a great segue into what we are talking about today in terms of these like mega retainers and how they're becoming simply unviable. So why don't you start us off with your thoughts on that?
So, I've worked in PR for many years, and about 3 years ago, I was working on a large PR retainer. I was based overseas, working for a client directly across a whole number of different projects for the client. One of the things that we were doing was managing their international media response. So every time a journalist would ask a question about the organization, myself and my team would manage the response. Often we were asked very technical questions, which would often take up a large amount of time researching response before drafting it and providing it to the client for their input. However, ChatGPT had just been launched. We were asked an incredibly technical question by a senior international journalist, and I thought, without obviously using any of the client's privileged data, I thought I would ask ChatGPT to take on the role of the client and to suggest a response to this journalist using all the available data online. It was shocking to me how quickly and how accurate their response was. So ChatGPT's response was probably about 80% there when it comes to the facts and figures that we would have wanted as parts of our response. All it took was a short amount of time for myself to refine this response before passing it on to the client. I mean, obviously, this doesn't feel revelatory to any of us now, seeing as we all use LLMs all the time. But at that moment, it was that sort of, aha moment that the whole world is just about to change. Because the moment the clients start using these tools themselves, they're going to start asking the questions of their advisors. Why can't this be automated? Why aren't you looking again at the structure of the team that are servicing this contract? And why ultimately aren't you passing on the savings to us? Because these mega retainers are often in tens and tens of thousands of pounds a month, and so and that's because of the weight of the staff team that are working on them. But if this staff team is significantly reduced because of AI, then surely clients can expect to pay less in the future.
So walk us through a typical structure of a mega retainer team and how it's going to change.
So in PR, one of the key things is obviously media monitoring. So oftentimes a PR company will subcontract a media monitoring service from a media monitoring company. They would then work with the client to work out what terms they want to monitor, what trends they want to look for, who are the important sources to look at. Then the PR consultants will get a report from the media monitoring company on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis during moments of crisis. That report will go to the client, will go to the consultant. So often a junior consultant, so just out of university, maybe their first or second job in public relations. That junior consultant will look at that media monitoring report. They will decide which of these stories are important enough to warrant some sort of response. They will then pass that on to an account, as the person leading the account, who will then look at it, review it, perhaps suggest a response if it's deemed necessary. It will then go to the account lead, who will then look at it and then decide whether to pass that on to the client. Obviously the multiple stages, which can now be shortcut from media monitoring all the way up to the account lead, because a lot of that other effort can be swapped for the use of a large language model and some of these other innovative PR tools which are on the market nowadays.
So if the mega retainer does go the way of the dodo bird, let's say, who stands to benefit the most from that, and who stands to lose the most?
Well, when it comes to losing the most, I mean, I think these legacy PR companies that are structured in such a way that that they have very staff heavy junior ranks, and their retainer model is based on a whole bunch of junior hours working for each client. They're going to have to really look again at whether they are offering true value to their client by keeping junior staff on those files. But then if the junior staff aren't on those files, they have a tough decision to make. It's how can we keep these juniors around? How can we keep them developing? Because we're going to need senior consultants in the future. And so what can we do to support these junior consultants whilst also still offering value to the client? So there's that sort of that tough trade-off that they're going to have to make. And when it comes to the winners, I think clients will hopefully win when at some point the PR companies start to pass on these cost savings to clients. Also, I think when it comes to startups or solopreneurs, people that are doing it for themselves, there's now the opportunity to go out and forge your own path by going and offering that strategic sort of top level counsel to clients, whilst then supplementing all of that work with AI tools, which are helping to to fill the roles of a junior staff member that would normally be working on these projects.
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably rings true for general marketing agencies as well. I mean, obviously in the PR world, where you and I both come from, you do a lot of forward-looking things, like building a brand or building an executive profile, but you are also the first one to be called when something goes wrong and you go into issues management mode or into crisis management mode. In a marketing agency, there's a bit less of that. It is a lot more production of content or campaigns, or new ideas, whether it's launch a product or respond to a competitor, et cetera. And I think that it's that production level that you can't really justify charging as much as you used to.
When it comes to marketing, what do you think are the most effective AI tools for marketers at the moment? Is it more along the sort of the creating marketing plans, drafting copy, or is it along the sort of the image generation, video generation, the sort of the rich content part of the piece?
Yeah, I think right now probably the most effective use of AI for marketing is obviously copywriting. That goes without saying. I think competitor analysis is a big one. If you can build a workflow or an agent that is trained on your industry and who your competitors are, you can be a lot better informed about what is going on in your space, just a lot faster than you used to be able to. In terms of the creative tools, video production, design, they're getting there. They're a lot better than they were a few years ago. We've all seen the video of Will Smith eating spaghetti and where it is now. This week there was a new tool launched called Seed Dance, I think, which is a video.
Seed Dance.
What is it?
Did you say Seed Dance? Is that what you're saying?
Seed Dance. Yeah. Sorry, Seed Dance. And there's a video going around on social of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise in a fight on top of a roof, and it's entirely AI generated. And if aside from the dialogue, if they weren't talking about Jeffrey Epstein, you might assume that this is an actual film. Like, it's that good now. But I think on the whole, in terms of whether you're in-house or you're an agency, being able to apply tools at that level, it's not quite there yet. You still rely on sort of the old-fashioned skills of a designer to create that really compelling creative.
Do you think that marketers are being honest with their clients about what proportion of the work is being delivered by AI now?
It's a good question. On the whole, I would think probably not, and it's not necessarily out of a desire to be dishonest, but more about, I think, AI has been around long enough now that it's just another tool. And before AI was here, you didn't tell your clients, oh, I used InDesign on this, or I used HubSpot to do this. You just deliver the results, right? And so I don't necessarily think it's even incumbent upon a marketer or a PR person to tell their client exactly how much AI went into it, because ultimately they're being paid for results. And this is, this then gets into a broader discussion about, well, how much can AI really replace individual PR people or marketing people, when at the end of the day you need to hold somebody accountable for the results.
Yeah.
CEO can't go to their board and say, oh, the AI got this wrong. That's just not going to be good enough. So I think long way of saying, I wouldn't say they're being dishonest, but they're probably not telling them the full spectrum of how much AI is involved, nor should they have to.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's the case. In terms of aspiring marketers, what advice would you give to anybody wanting to break into the industry, perhaps coming out of university? How can they upskill to make sure that they are, they're competitive in this fundamentally changed world?
Yeah, I think they need to grab onto a trend that I think is slowly building within marketing, where, for the last 20 years, I think marketers, mostly because their clients ask for this, have over-indexed on the promotion side of marketing. But there's 4 P's to marketing. There's promotion, there's price, there's place, and there's product. I think that AI is making promotion the easiest of those 4, and requires the less people hours. But increasingly, I think that companies are sort of living and dying by the experience they provide to their customers after their customers have made the purchase. So, promotion kind of gets your prospect to the point of purchase. And then companies, I think, have, over the last several years, because they've over-indexed on that promotion side, have let the other side fall. And so you end up with low brand loyalty, and that's just not good for your long-term revenue. And so I think companies are now coming around to understanding that they have to put more attention there. And so if you're a marketer coming into the industry, I would say that's like, make sure that's where you're upskilling. And that is sort of more broader knowledge, for lack of a better term. You just need to become more commercially aware, probably sooner in your career than you would have had to in the past. It's less about the skills that you can deliver day to day. It's not about being like the social person anymore or the digital ads person anymore. I think it's really about understanding the strategy of your clients, or the company that you work for, and understanding the customer is the biggest thing, being the voice of the customer.
Which is ultimately the fun part of the job, isn't it? It's the strategic advice rather than the sort of tactical delivery, because we all, there's always a joke, it's like, oh, I want to be a strategic advisor, sort of, don't we all?
Yeah, of course.
Sitting back, offering your advice, and then somebody else doing the work. And now we've got tools that can do a lot of the work for us. And so so we can all focus on the stuff that is is most exciting about both of our jobs.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too, like at sort of a macro level, AI has now made it easier to start a business, and so we're going to see this. I mean, we already are seeing the sort of influx of new startups that are coming to market, and I can guarantee you they're over-indexing on promoting, because when you're at that stage, you kind of have to. And so if you are a marketer or a PR person who can really sort of help articulate to these businesses how to think about their key stakeholder relations. Customer is just one of them, but obviously media is one, investors, regulators, depending on the industry that you're in. That's, I think, where those soft skills come into play, that you'll be fairly AI safe.
Mm. I think that's a good place to leave it there, Derek. Thanks very much. And join us next week for more conversations about industries undergoing AI-driven revolution.
See you then.